All right, welcome back, guys. Tonight we're going to be doing a little moose hunt recap video here. We thought we'd talk about some things that went well, some things that went okay, and then some things that went wrong. So first off, if you've seen the video, you know we did good.
Cheers.
We each got a good moose, which was the objective. But it was not without some struggles along the way. Some of the comments we got were about the shot. Orin was the first one to hunt and the shot. So do you want to talk about the shot that you took on the moose and when you finally got him?
Absolutely. So normally I'm not a bad shot.
I don't know if that's true, but
usually get the job done. And so just so you're aware, this gun is clear. There's no magazine in it. Anyway, what we didn't realize till we got, actually, I didn't realize till the next morning, if I'm being 100% honest, what had happened is I actually have a Leopold VX3 with a adjustable target turret set up for this rifle on here. And what I didn't realize at the time was somehow on the pack frame between the airplane and getting down there where we shot, which is only a few hours probably time, somehow it had actually depressed the button, which is the whole point I bought this one, because it has a locking button on it, but it had actually turned a full revolution after pushing the button on the target turret, so it was shooting it was shooting almost 2 foot high or more, so which made a huge difference in the shot impact, because at that distance I could actually pick out a little clump of hair to hold on that moose. That's why I was so certain I hit him the first round, because it literally filled up a third of the scope. And unfortunately, when you're in the field, stuff happens. It's easy when you're at home and on the couch or whatever to Monday morning quarterback things. But anyway, it was kind of shocking. That first round didn't, it actually completely missed the moose. Somehow went right past him. But the second one hit him kind of right on the very forward point of the shoulder and then exited out the base of the neck. And it definitely...
it dropped him quick.
It dropped him. It dropped him. He was dead before he hit the ground. But anyway, this Tikka's in 7mm. It's kind of the older version of the Tikka T3, and have killed all kinds of stuff under the sun with this rifle, and just love this gun.
Maybe not love the turret on that so much.
I don't even know how that's even possible. It's locked right now, and you can't even turn it. So you literally have to depress this button and then twit and turn it. And so, like, in the future, that'll be a something I'll have to watch out for, and I might just run a neoprene scope cover on it and then don't have to worry about it. But usually bikini covers kind of work the best up here in Alaska, because it creates a seal and then you don't end up with any fogging issues, which you have pretty much with every other scope cover, including neoprene ones or the fancy flip-up ones. Those are just notorious up here for when you go to use them, when you need them, you flip it open and your scope's fogged on both ends. So bikini covers are typically the way to go, but not in this instance, I guess. So anyway, I just need to be more aware of it, and yeah.
So you left some stuff out there in the field too.
Yeah, and so I think two of these next ones kind of coincide together, because I was getting, we went down to pick up the moose head on our very last load of my moose, and we get down there, and I just brought my Havalon, just a regular Havalon. I don't have it with me right at the moment, but I brought my regular Havalon with me with just the blade, a brand new blade it had on it. And anybody who's used Havalons is well aware that lots of times you don't make it through a full animal without snapping off the blades. They're crazy, incredibly sharp. But the regular Havalons, you'll break a blade almost every animal you skin out. And I literally made it 5 minutes into this moose head before the blade snapped off halfway. And at that point, I actually took off my bino harness. I was able to finish out the moose head and get the tongue and the lower jaw.
Which was impressive.
With the nubbin that was left on the, it was super sharp and it did the job. But unfortunately, it was a lot of work. Apparently, we have a cat going on.
We got a dog trying to come down.
Anyway, besides the Havalon being a Havalon. And they're always sketchy just replacing the blades alone, much less it snapping off inside the animal. So I may not use a Havalon in the future, with the exception of some small detail work on stuff. But the other side effect of that was I took off my bino harness because I was getting frustrated, and set it in the bushes, and it was camo, and didn't realize again till the next morning, because we didn't get back till after midnight or around midnight in the dark and blowing rain sideways, and we got lost in the fog and all kinds of stuff. But I took off my bino harness and set it down, and it's gone. So lost my rangefinder bino harness.
I had volunteered to go back, even though I did not want to go back on a moose kill site. A couple days later,
It was pretty brushy.
it was brushy, but
birds and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
I was gonna go back and get it, but we just ran out of time. If you saw when he was flying those meat loads out, and we were getting the gear out of there, we were approaching darkness. We really wanted to get out of there that night, and I mean, by the time you got out of there on that last flight and made it back to the larger runway,
Barely made it back in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, it was the sun was down and it was dark, so we didn't have time to go back for it. So,
which is unfortunate,
Yeah.
and it is what it is. But also, I wasn't super eager to go back there into that kill site. It was just real brushy, and we're gonna have to take the rifle with us, and it was just, it wasn't the best situation after a couple days or 3 days of not having been down there. So anyway, when I got back to Anchorage here, I went down and bought a new setup here.
good news.
The good news is, I guess, I don't know, it's what you make of it. So I upgraded some of my optics, I guess. And so anyway, this Leopold rangefinder bag came with this pair of binoculars, I guess. But don't necessarily love the bag, but it's going to work for what I need, at least for a year or so. But anyway, I bought a new rangefinder, and this is RX 1400 ITBR rangefinder. It should do everything I need it to do. And then I got a new pair of, I'm a Leopold person, so I got some new 10x42s. These are the BX2 Alpine HDs, and super nice clear glass. So it's a considerable upgrade over my other ones that I got for free. And so anyway, that's what I'll be hunting with for the next couple of years. These binoculars certainly will be, they're 10x42s. My other ones were 8x42s. So those would be better for sheep hunting and pretty much just all around better. The glass is super crisp and clear. And they're on sale at Sports and Warehouse, so I think all in, it was like $400. So not a bad deal.
But still an expensive.
Usually I have pro form stuff
mistake.
from them, but in this instance, like it was like, all right, well, that'll work.
Yeah. So those were kind of Orin's big gotchas on his hunt. If you saw mine, the obvious gotcha is going to be the camera that I had head mounted. So I didn't get the kill shot on camera. Orin had my GoPro. I had another camera, this guy right here, mounted on my head. And I do actually like this camera. It's a cheaper camera. I think I spent like $80 on it, so nowhere near the cost of a GoPro. But it's worked well for me. I've been using it a lot this year. But typically I have it in this waterproof case. And so when it's mounted in here, the buttons are real rigid. I've never had a problem with like hitting the buttons and turning it off or changing the mode or anything. So it's been pretty solid for me most of the year, but I've typically used it on my boat as a secondary angle on my boat. With this time, I had it head mounted in the not waterproof case, just an open case. And with that, the buttons are a little bit more finicky. And apparently what happened is, as I was going through the brush with that open mount on here, is it either hit the mode button or the power button here and shut the camera off. And so that's what happened, why I didn't get the footage. To remedy that, if I use this in the future, it's just always going to be in here, which does take away some of the clarity of the video, but it still gets pretty good video. But I've also bought an additional GoPro. I'm actually recording in 2 cameras right now, or typically I only have one. So I added a GoPro 12 to the camera collection here. I've also added the Max Lens Mod 2.0. So when I do have it head mounted, it's going to give me a better field of view for that head mount. So with this setup, with what happened on the hunt, should not happen with the GoPro. So I'm really excited to get that out. I used it on the fishing video, had it mounted on my head, and
great.
Footage was good. Angle that it records at was good, and that was even, I hadn't received my new lens yet. So with the testing I've done with this, it's even better. So the not getting the footage that I want to get with the head mount camera shouldn't happen again.
That was brutal, but that's just part of, when you're out in the middle of nowhere in Alaska, this isn't filming whitetail in your backyard on the back,
which I love whitetail hunting, but
I do too, but it's not
there's a lot
same,
more complexities to hunting up here, and there's no wait and redo it, right? Like you get one shot, and unfortunately with this shot, I got the kill shot, but I did not get the camera shot. So
yeah, which is super unfortunate because I didn't get to see it either. Because I heard the thwack, I guess, but
didn't even
besides that,
it.
I didn't even know. I thought he was just breaking sticks and raking his horns. So it is what it is.
So didn't get the shot. Blame the camera a little bit, but I've also upgraded some hardware here, some equipment. So hopefully that'll alleviate that in the future. So that's my big failure on my hunt. The other thing, which I don't really consider a failure, but just something I wish I didn't have to deal with, was the water source for us was about a 25-minute hike down a mountain. And so you had a bum knee, which we alluded to a little bit in the video, but people probably didn't, like you were still hiking around and hauling quarters and stuff, but your knee was killing you quite a bit.
It was kind of more important to be able to haul moose meat because we had so much of it. And so at least, I think twice. I didn't go get water.
Yeah, so I was going and getting the water, which means I had to hike down 25 minutes, grab the water and hike back up. Now, I talked about this in the gear review video we did before we went on the hunt, that I love this, the Platypus filter system where you put all the dirty water in one bag, you attach the hose between the dirty bag and the clean bag, and then you just hang the dirty bag above the clean, and it just filters on its own. What happened this time, which I don't remember it taking quite as long from on previous hunts, but it was just taking a really long time, and by the time I was getting down there to get water, it was already late at night, so I was having to wait around a while for it to filter before I could head back up the mountain. So both times I was coming back up in the dark.
And you did see three brown bears.
Yeah, I saw a grizzly with 2 cubs on the first night I headed down there. I still love it. I still love the way it works. And if we were closer to a water source, it would have been great. But I wish, which we did have a hand pump, and I took it on the second one, but I had issues connecting the hose to it. And I think it might have been the cold.
It was just cold and the hose didn't want to go on there because
you've attached it at your house now and said you had no problems. I tried for like 10 minutes and couldn't get the hose to attach to the hand pump. So I was just using this when I was down at the creek, and it worked. We got the water we needed and didn't have any issues in that sense. It just took me a while, and I had to get, I had to climb back up a mountain in the dark, which isn't ideal in a remote place like that. So those were kind of the big failures. Before we get to the things that went good, there were a couple other things we would want to change too. One being the tent. While we didn't have any big issues with the tent, we do kind of wish we had a tent with maybe a little bit more support.
Yeah, like maybe a Alaska Guide Cabela's.
Yeah, maybe a 4-person
tent, and then something with just more structure. It was a Kelty lighter weight backpack tent, which was a 3-person, which is great for 2 guys and a little bit of gear inside the tent. But as far as winds were getting up near 30 miles an hour, and it was getting a little bit much for the tent, and the probably much more than that. It was getting a little bit much for the airplane too, because it wouldn't want to fly. But so that was kind of the more of a something with some more poles, a little more structure. Yeah. But the downside of that is when the weight. Something, the weight goes up.
And so as we talked about,
it's always a balance, just like everything. You need about 5 different tents or 10 different tents here in Alaska for different things.
And we talked about in the other video how weight was an issue for us with flying out there. And if you saw the videos, then you know that plane was packed. I mean, we used every inch in there for getting stuff in. And while it didn't weigh a lot, the stuff was bulky. We couldn't have it be bulky and heavy. So that's why we made the decision to take a lighter weight tent and didn't take something with 4 poles and something a little bit more rigid that would survive higher winds.
No, we didn't have any major issues.
We didn't.
But it was at its kind of it was at the margin.
He was having to cook most of the night on his side, most nights on his side, because the wind was caving in my side, at least the vestibule area. So, but it all worked out. There were no major issues, and our sleeping bags didn't get wet, and it worked out pretty good. So.
One other issue we ran into was, and I guess this falls under good, but it kind of falls under bad too, and it was in the second part, but the running the battery down on the plane, and that was largely due to not having a primer line hooked up, which I'll hook one up for ski flying season this year. I just don't have it currently hooked up. I have it all plumbed in, but just don't have it hooked up. But so we're just pumping the accelerator pump to try and start the plane.
And it just wasn't working.
It was cold. It wasn't real happy from sitting there out in the wind for a week. And so we ran the battery down, unfortunately, trying to start the plane. And so had a DeWalt jump starter.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's just move right into the good stuff, because the good stuff was, and you were worried about this, but I was like, oh, that thing's going to be money. We're not going to have any issues.
And I should have known, because it was DeWalt. Like everything I own that's DeWalt is amazing.
Never fails.
Drills and drivers and stuff. But I had just bought this the week before we left, because I thought, worst case, I could charge some electronics like my phone or the iPad that I use for some of the GPS stuff for ForeFlight. But worst case, I could use it to jump the plane if I needed to. And
Worst
lo and
case
behold,
happened.
we get to try it out. So you're trying to figure out, how to make this thing work too in the field. But anyway, it says it can start a diesel truck and it can start an airplane with no issue. It turns out it didn't even take a bar of charge off the jump starter, which was amazing. So it could have probably done it multiple more times.
Yeah.
But it just windmilled the propeller and eventually it caught and then just went.
Yeah.
And so it definitely probably saved us a couple grand on calling somebody with a Cub to come out there and drop us off a battery or charger.
I'm already in this hunt enough. I didn't want to have to
need
add
somebody more money plus all the other hunts we got going on this year too.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a lifesaver, and I'm super excited about that thing. I had a Costco one before, whatever brand it was,
right?
And it never worked on my other plane, so I didn't have a lot of confidence going into it on this one. But I've read tons of reviews on them, and that's why I bought that one.
Yeah.
And it certainly did the job, and it was worth the $120 or whatever I invested in it. In the future, anytime I'm using an ATV, boat,
have one of those,
airplane, side by side, whatever, I will always take it with me. Worst case, you can just use it to charge your phone.
Yeah.
Or worst case, you can use it to start whatever the vehicle is, I guess, actually.
Yeah, well, if you don't need it.
If you don't need it, then you can charge your phone, you can charge your iPad, you can charge, GoPros, whatever, right, that takes power. But it definitely can be save you one way or another.
If that didn't work, I was going to have to hand prop it. And I'd probably be here with one arm today because
the worst part is I have electronic ignition on one side. And so hand propping it is possible, but you really gotta give it a good spin. So you definitely want to be careful and be behind the prop when you do it, especially on that plane. So anyway, it was possible. We were going to try everything under the sun. Luckily, we were able to, besides
pretty
just
quick,
the pain of taking the cowling off, the top cowl off, we were able to get it started and got her up to temp and let the alternator charge the battery back up, and then came ripping off our little tiny, super rough little landing spot. And I guess that was kind of the second thing we...
Yeah, we could have talked about things. I mean, that was tough because we talked about in the second video, right after I shot my moose, and what's the saying? If it looks rough, it's really rough, and if it looks smooth, it's still rough. And we definitely experienced. It looked smooth. From the air, it looked good.
Even after we took off from there, it looks smooth from there. And we did we flew by it before we landed and did all our due diligence, and it looked smooth and it's just hard. Those tussocks are kind of camoed in, and you just can't see them. And the spot we actually came to a stop in wasn't too bad, but on 100 feet on both sides of it was just horrible, like knock your fillings out. Kind of bad. Luckily, it didn't do anything to that plane, but we leveled it out a little bit and got rid of some of the really bad ones, and we were able to turn around and take off the end of the ridge and just kind of take off of it. But so it turned out just fine. But we had to find a different spot to actually ferry all the moose out of in our camp, which meant we had to haul all our stuff and the moose to a different, kind of a little bit different spot. But it was what it was, and
it all worked out.
Yeah.
Other things that went well. Obviously, we each got 2 moose. I mean, we did it in a short period of time. I mean, we got there Friday. You got yours on Saturday. I got mine on Monday.
Yeah.
While that's good, I'll also say it's kind of a bad for me. I mean, I hunted for like an hour with my bow. I mean, I hunt with a bow because it's hard. I mean, it's typically much harder, especially in Alaska, to hunt with a bow than a rifle. And I've been on very few hunts that you couldn't be successful with a rifle, but that you would be successful with a bow. It's just so much more challenging in this country.
You might have 1 or 2 opportunities on a bow hunt, whereas with a rifle, multiple
I can almost shoot something every time I go out with a rifle. If I can shoot 300 yards, which I can shoot 300 yards, typically I can be successful in Alaska with a rifle.
That's pretty accurate if you put in the time, and especially if you go on a fly-out hunt.
On a hunt like this, easily.
But we were going hard. I mean, from light, we were leaving the tent at as soon as it was getting light, and we weren't coming back till well after dark, sometimes 9, 10, 12 at night. And we were going, I think I lost between 12 and 14 pounds in the course of 5 actual days of packing moose. I mean, because most of the time we actually spent just carrying moose around 100 plus pounds on our back up tundra-covered mountains. And that was kind of one of the downsides was where I shot my moose. We actually ended up having the ridge we put it on, we couldn't actually land on that ridge. So we had to move it to the next ridge, which was, a quarter mile away, and it took us almost the better part of a day to actually move the whole, 500 plus pounds of moose meat over to the next ridge to land on. And it's an insane amount of work, and that's why my knee wasn't working very well, because we're behind the scenes. It's an insane amount of work, which we'd probably do that a little bit different in the future.
If we did go back and, I'd say it's almost a
year after next.
Yeah, I think a year after next is it. To say we wouldn't go back, I can't imagine us not going back. It was just so good. The amount of moose that's probably the best good thing about it was, and we know a lot of other hunters, right, that hunted a lot of other areas. They go out to areas with their side-by-sides or their boats, and typically they're seeing far more cows than bulls. Yeah. And in a lot of cases, they're not even seeing a legal bull if they're going into an area where there's a lot of other hunters.
Yeah.
So we were going into an area which didn't really have many other hunters, and the ratio of bulls to cows was ridiculous.
And big bulls too, not just bulls.
Almost everything was 50.
Yeah,
you could have shot
50 inches
50
or
bigger. You could have shot anything, and had it been legal anywhere else. It was crazy. So there's definitely going to be. Assuming we don't get canceled for some reason on for shooting animals or something, but assuming we don't get canceled off YouTube, I think there's definitely going to be a video in future years here of us going back. But what we did agree to is if we go back, only one of us is going to hunt. That way we can focus, and we'd probably go back to the exact same spot, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But we would just focus on taking the biggest bull in those valleys, and we
got video. The second bull we had video of was probably the biggest bull there. He was probably
low 70s.
He was probably 73 if I had to guess. It was a once in a lifetime bull.
Yeah.
And we actually saw him while we were taking care of mine, I believe. Right. But the problem is once you got one down, you got to deal with one. So,
yeah.
And I couldn't get him to go shoot it with the rifle, even though it was only 200 or 300 yards away.
Yeah, I was like, nope, I want one with a bow.
Which is fine. And I was totally happy with the one I shot too. So but in the future, just one, two is just so much work. We shipped.
Yeah, it is.
I think his shipment was
575 pounds.
575, and my shipment of meat and stuff was 555 pounds. And so the two in combination were over 1,100 pounds. Yeah. That's just a ton of meat, and we had to carry all of that on our backs up mountains and over the tundra, and it was brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal. We were obviously successful, but yeah, if we had to go back, one bull between the two of us, and we could just split the meat or whatever, however we want to do it. But I told him he can go first, right? He can shoot the first one. I'll just record and get some good video, and he can shoot the first one. And I think we would do bow again. I think you would go for bow.
Yeah, they're so easy to call in, and yeah.
It was the perfect bow hunting habitat. I've hunted a lot of places up here, a lot of places with bow, and that is the best location I've seen for bow hunting for moose. Just the way the broken willows and alders are working out there, and that grass, we had no problem getting close to moose with
the very first try.
Almost no try, or no effort put in. So
your wife must have an Amazon.
I don't know who's here at my door, but my wife's always ordering something from Target or Amazon. So yeah, it's probably something like that. We had a lot go well for us. A few things went wrong, but nothing that really negatively impacted the outcome of anything. And really just a great hunt. I'll never forget it. It was a great, everything about it, not even just the hunt, but the flight there, the flight back, just the planning of it. And
logistically,
you really
I love the
logistics
side of it, and it was, there is no shortage of planning and preparation, and just the flight planning that goes into it, and fuel and everything else is
which is
daunting.
really why that place is such a good spot, because it is such a job to do everything.
Correct. Most pilots I know won't even
do it.
Planes and Super Cubs here won't even go do it. So it's a major time and the money.
And there's a danger danger to it, right? Of flying those remote. That's the other great thing. I said that to Andrea before, right? Was the other great piece is we're still alive. I mean, it's there's not joking. Joking aside, like there's been some plane crashes up here this year that have cost some people their lives. That in some remote areas like that, doing stuff similar to what we were doing, and it's just one of those things. It's part of the deal when you're flying in these remote areas, and you can't just bring the plane down and land wherever you want. Sometimes you don't have a spot to land, and
or weather won't allow
weather.
You're really dealing with a lot of weather in September, and mountains and everything that goes into that. So there's and stuff happens sometimes, but you just try the best to mitigate it.
Yeah. So, but nope, great hunt.
Yeah, super fun.
Another great moose hunt, great adventure, and we got that bear hunt coming up here shortly that we're getting ready for. So that's going to be. We got this video we're going to post. We're going to post a bear hunt gear review here that we're going to be doing for the gear we're taking on the bear hunt, and then after that, might be a couple weeks before I get something posted, but. Hopefully one of us will at least we both got bear tags for down in Fognac, which is basically Kodiak. But hopefully at least one of us will take a nice bear down there and we'll get some good footage. So
we'll make it happen.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. So far we do on the hunts this year. So
you never know.
1 for 1 right now. Let's see if we can make it 2 for 2 on the next one.
It'll be a good adventure either way.
Yeah. We'll see you guys on the next video, and thanks for watching. If you like this video or like our moose hunting videos or any of our fishing videos, please subscribe. Thanks, guys.